The Queen Anne style. The style of decorative arts that began to evolve during the rule of King William III of England reached its primacy during the reign of Queen Anne in 1702 to 1714 and persisted after George I ascended the throne. Richard Norman Shaw was the person who popularized the Queen Anne style throughout England and the United States. So, what is the Queen Anne style?
The Queen Anne style went through various iterations throughout time, stemming from the early 1700s in England and then resurging in the United States through well-known architect Norman Shaw. At a first glance, we can see the massing of different geometrical shapes that are compiled together. Another first impression of these buildings are the different materials and colors that are part of the architectural system. In an excerpt from the American Architect and Building News, preeminently successful in its stand-up works of Mr. Norman Shaw, ARA, Pierrepont in Surrey, and The Whispers near Midhurst, it is almost impossible to speak too highly of these artificially beautiful works. Mr. Shaw is an artist in all he does. The Queen Anne style houses in the United States are an expression of its time and place, but yearn for its sliminess. We as a viewer can experience the subtlety of early Victorian housing that stemmed early on. It is contained within these houses as well as the furnishing within it. As we dissect the Queen Anne housing, we can spot some interesting characteristics that are involved in the construction of these houses. As noted earlier, the compilation of the geometrical shapes remove the symmetrical look of an ordinary house. As a result, the Queen Anne house plays with the symmetry in the floor plan as well as the frontal elevation. Queen Anne house plays with it, the tower's base, porches, the roofline break, the box look. The turret removes the balance of the building. The tower elements lift the views from a person watching it from below, but brings it to the view back to the ground with long porches around the front perimeter. Another notable feature that we can visibly see is the use of materiality and color throughout the house. First thing is the change in color throughout. There is a primary color that is usually dominant around the exterior of the house. The color is usually bright color that can be contrasted and combined with the primary color. The secondary color is used throughout the trim of the house. Usually this second color is used on the window trims, fascia of the roof, and sometimes carried throughout the interior of the building as well. Finally, another key feature that sets the Queen Anne style apart from the rest of the housing is the ornamentation throughout the building. Walking up to the house, we can clearly see the craft that is used throughout. There are various trims with color that contrast the primary color that sticks above the rest. In the exterior, the ornamentation we seen on the porch gable, cornices, and story breaks. The Queen Anne style movement came in phases when it first saw the building being built in the United States. The first phase is seen as an English style like construction. Characteristics that came with the design is half timbering and carving from the 17th century architecture. Masonry and stucco would be featured throughout the chimney as well. There was clear transition of different materials, specifically masonry and wood shingles. The second phase was seen on the turret style. It is considered to be the pinnacle of Queen Anne in the revival period. The addition of the tower gives it a new symbol that will resonate with people throughout the years. The transition of the two materials are also masonry of wood shingles. Finally, the third phase of the Queen Anne style cottage, this reduced version of a typical Queen Anne style home, is usually a single-story dwelling. The use of traditional ornamentation, transom windows, turned wood, and perches were used in these cottages. There is also less color or dual colors throughout.